Right. Good morning, YouTube. Let's see what's going on. I had to grab my notes, grab my coffee. Essential items, correct? Let's see what's. Whoa. Slow down out there. Daggum. Who was in the side chat? Look at this. Welcome, fellas. We got Boneyard Militia, Walter Davis, Barry Wood getting this early start on this whole deal. Yeah, early bird gets the worm. There you go. Hey, thanks for coming out. What's going on in your all's area? Anybody got anything to report? Let me post the word out there. Spread the love. Spread the word. Hope everybody had a good week. Have a nice, relaxing weekend. Doesn't happen, right? But it was definitely an interesting weekend, I guess you would say. Right? All right, folks. Let's get started. I'm going to start with the weather because that's everyone wants to know how their weekend is, right? And the East Coast is going to be wet, and Barry, you're going to be wet too, I believe, if you're not already buried in snow. It's looking kind of grim up there. Washington's kind of covered, but you can see what's coming for the East Coast and the Midwest. Everybody out there, M. Long in Kentucky, and everybody else. It's not looking good for you folks, and we're dry to the bone here. They're saying we might get something. I think we're going to get like the tail end of what's coming from Uberry. There's going to be a front that drops down the coast. It's going to pull some of that with it, but we ain't getting anything of significance, I don't think. So that's unfortunate for us. All our listeners out there in the Midwest are going to be shoveling, it looks like. M. Long, Daniel out in Ohio. Yeah. Walter, you're in Pennsylvania. You're probably going to get this later too, it looks like. So water for everybody except where it's needed, where I'm at. Melting and raining where you are, Barry. It looks like it might cool off again here for you. Get some more. Wouldn't be surprised. Let's roll on over. Yesterday, earthquake out of Mexico, 7.2, rocking their world. I haven't seen any casualty reports yet. Last time they had one of this side, they had several hundred casualties, deaths even, and then even more casualties. Southern side of Mexico. See if we can get a good, which one map is the best. I don't really need interactive. Oh, Walter, you cross the border and get to work? So you plow roads in Jersey, huh? That doesn't sound like much fun. Yeah, back in September, they had that earthquake that caused 228 deaths in just the one state alone and 141 in other states of Mexico. So it was fairly significant. When did this come out? So yesterday. Hasn't been updated. There was an aftershock after that was fairly significant. People were talking about. There was a September 7th earthquake as well. That was even further south of Fridays. They killed 100 people. They've had several in Mexico, doing some pretty significant damage, it sounds like, in the last 6 months. Yeah, here's kind of a map of it. Here's Mexico City up here, and it's down here where it was centered at. So right across the most narrow portion of Mexico here. Yeah, Boneyard, you're on your own on that. If you want heat, you can go somewhere else. I'll take winter, which we're not getting one, which is not helping my morale at all. At all. I was contemplating about this Mexican earthquake and just kind of thinking through the situation in Mexico about how this affects people wanting to come to the United States. Do people, does it increase the rate with which people will leave Mexico to try to find, better job, better life, whatever you want to say, once your house is destroyed or, something happens? Or do people band together, stick together and try to, more people stay there, like it cuts down on that situation. It was just a thing I was contemplating about what that might mean for effects north of the border. It would make it hazardous for a lot of the Central Americans that come through southern Mexico, I would think, because there's now, this is 3 in a row essentially, that makes that area probably, a lot of infrastructure is going to be damaged from that, and they're got to be continuously working on that stuff. So maybe they're having a lot of jobs opening up and people have a problem and they just stay around. Who knows? Random thoughts of the brain when you see stuff like that. Hey, Jet M, good morning. Welcome. M Long, good morning. Looks like you're going to be getting some snow, rain. We looked at the weather earlier, M Long. Stand by. Just covering the Mexican earthquake here that happened yesterday. If you weren't in the loop, no casualty reports on any of these links. But I'm sure we'll find out more. To dovetail in with that, they had some ICE was doing raids down in LA this week. They arrest roughly 212 illegals through LA by ICE. This is going to get tenuous at some point. In these conclaves like this, where essentially the local leaders are against it, there's lots of illegal activity of other types. There was a story out yesterday where they were actually blockading the ICE vehicles from getting into a detention facility. And LAPD was out there trying to push the protesters aside, but they've been directed not to help ICE by the governor and the LA mayor and everybody else. Like that's going to get, that's a situation that could get ugly at some point. 122 businesses were raided in that. And they have to prove they aren't hiring illegal immigrants. Nearly all those arrested were convicted criminals, according to ICE. So we convicted them and we didn't deport them. We convicted them and we deported them and they came back again. I wonder which one it is. 88% of those arrested during this operation were convicted. Oh, click to read more. convicted criminals. So they are kicking in high gear, that operation they were talking about a couple months ago, it looks like. Hey, Walter, you go to LA, there's lots of people that'll cry. Um, because it's not about it's not about the sweet innocent really is caught in the middle. It's about the whole package, the agenda, and a lot of them support that agenda. So that was on the radar. Again, going off the Mexican stories. Yeah, lots of MS-13, right? Truth threes. That's anybody of that nature could pose a problem for ICE, and with no backup from local PD, local in a real conundrum and be outgunned, if you will, if they got in the wrong situation. But I don't know how that's working out. Maybe LA SWAT's backing them up, providing a cordon area for them or something when they do this stuff. Maybe they're just steading off to the side, keeping it low key to keep the politics out of it, maybe. So that's some interesting stories with these sweeps going on. They talked about originally starting in San Francisco, and I had asked why they weren't in LA, and well, here they are in LA. So let's see how that works out for them. Going along with, we were talking about the security in Venezuela this last week and the devolving situation there with their economy and the social greatness that they're going through down there in Venezuela, with all the robbing of cargo and people getting kidnapped and just everything falling apart, essentially. And somebody had commented, and I think it was either Barry or M. Long or one of you guys, maybe it was Walter, that it was affecting Brazil as well. And yeah, there was some stories that this just came out a few minutes ago. This shorter story. And there was a story yesterday about the military taking over security in Rio de Janeiro. The military was put in charge of it as escalating violence has been going on, and they're having upcoming elections, I believe, to go with it. And let's see how they tie this all together. There's a big festival called how do they say it? Carnival. The Carnival Festival is coming up. All these tourists are coming in, and they're really dropping the hammer on the security situation. But that doesn't help with the devolving situation in Venezuela bleeding over into other regional area. And elections are coming up. I see. Part of that is the president was impeached in 2016, and the replacement, Tamir here, it looks like. There's October in Brazil. Violent death rate in Rio is 40 per 100,000 residents. That's kind of high. There are 6,731 violent deaths in 2017 in Rio alone. So Rio's in bad shape, where they just had the Olympics. And now they drop it. I'm sure that'll help, right? Untrained. Maybe they train their military to be policemen, but it's usually doesn't work that way. Check back in on the side chat here. Walter talked to somebody from Trinidad. It's really bad. The political situation in Trinidad, Walter, or what? And in Venezuela and surrounding countries, are they getting bleed over economically from like near down in South America? Yeah, yeah, right. Truth freeze. It's going to bleed over to here. People already, I mean, all the migrant workers and everything else. A lot of them are from Central America to begin with, and yeah, it does bleed over. That's the banana wars were a result of some of the effects, and we also have Russia and China getting down in South America with various activities, building ports, military bases, etc., flying out of there with bombers and everything else. Bring which they haven't been on our doorstep in quite some time, if ever. And we kind of did those banana wars and stuff to kind of set that stage, but lost our grip you don't when you don't treat people well. The problems of imperialism. And Colombia as well. Yes, true. Yeah, Colombia is always a destabilized state. Chile and Argentina have their economic problems continuously. It seems like they go through cycles where they can't keep their economy going and whatnot. So there was a good story out of CNBC yesterday. I want to look up that talks about a big project that China is working on, an overland route, basically rebuilding or building a new Silk Road, essentially, that connects China directly with Europe and Africa in the Middle East. It was a really good graphic representation and presentation on what it kind of all meant and what it would require. And it's this big project. Let me pull that up so I can find it, right? Anything that's been posted a day ago or more disappeared, it seemed like. Truth, when you say the SA, is that one of the underlying organizations down there in Venezuela or Colombia? Is that one of the rebel organizations, or what does SA stand for? Cocaine, marijuana, and oil out of Venezuela, essentially. I mean, they only have so many resources that they focus on. Boneyard's brother lived in Colombia for 10 years. Insane stories. Yeah. I'm still looking for this Chinese story. Bear with me, please. I need to get some elevator music or some Jeopardy music to give me. That's how much time I get to look something up, or it's over. Yep, yep, yep. Oh, SA just means South America in general. Got it. Cocaine is a worldwide market, Boneyard. With heroin, or are they just different enough to they have different markets? How does that work? I'm not CIA, so I don't really understand those how they built those markets. Maybe they have different target audiences for those two. You'd figure they would compete with each other. Here it is. All right. I knew I'd find it eventually. Yeah, Walter Davis. They could. Venezuela's relied on that oil for a long time as it's a member of OPEC, but they kind of not only did they let it die, they malinvested and just stopped growing it. The socialist policies didn't help with any of that. All right, here's a story on China and what they're doing with this initiative. Their Belt and Road Initiative, as they're calling it, where going to here's some of the graphics of the a picture of overhead of the project. It looks like a bridge building, high bridge over this swamp area, wherever this is located. Let's see if we can get a caption to this. No caption. Next, Asia, Europe, and the Middle East and Africa, which is a decided advantage over our isolation on North America, where we can essentially not really, we could build a road network to Central America, but we're very isolated other than that. So it makes their ability to build trade networks, which you figure they could have started a while back if it wasn't for the communist influence, but now they're breaking out of that shell. Happy birthday, Boneyard. Somebody else had a birthday recently. Oh, Mountain Man had one last week. He had a video on his birthday that was pretty good. He did a live chat for that. M. Long says, I wonder how the Chinese oil rig leaked for a month with a slick the size of Vermont and the liberals, etc., ain't screaming bloody murder. One, I don't think anybody probably heard about it. And two, they know they can't do anything about it because the Chinese aren't going to listen. So this road network that China's looking to build, big economic stats, 1/3 of the global GDP would be affected, connecting 65 countries, 60% of the world population, 4.5 billion people, increase Beijing's global clout. Modern infrastructure, and soak up some of the capacity that China has in their industrial sector to put them back to maximizing their workload, I guess. They're quoting it as the Silk Road Economic Belt, the nautical 21st century maritime Silk Road. So there's the overland project as well as a maritime component over sea. So let's check out this land deal. This is really cool thing to check out. We'll spend a couple minutes on it, but they bring it in map to map it across China. It goes through Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Um, all these influenced former Russian countries, they note that they don't go through Russia because there's conflict there, but they did mention about the capital of Uzbekistan, Dushanbe, Tajikistan, just essentially rebuilding, really, like I say, the Silk Road. They do have a connection with Tehran and Iran in this plan. They did talk about the oil built between Russia and China recently. And the real crux getting across Asia Minor through Istanbul. This will allow China to connect by Europe by rail while skipping Russia, which they probably have to pay quite a bit to get through Russia. This is planning to construct a high-speed rail line between Istanbul and Ankara, and Turkey has indicated it will cooperate with China in the areas of tourism, education, and healthcare. I'm not sure how that's going to work out for them. So the comments on Moscow here, though, let's pull this up. So they do have a 55 million oil line project that commenced last year, transporting Russia oil to China, but it's not quite complete. It has other issues. But they're not sure how Moscow is going to support this project, if at all. So that might be a sticking point for them. Whoa. Full size this. But there is a project that a bid won by a Chinese-led group for a high-speed railway between Moscow and Kazan. So lots of projects that are in the area. And then on into Europe, where spiderweb into Western Europe. So that's kind of that. Let's go to the, how can I back out to the maritime? Oh, I think I had to go to the end of the line all the way if I wanted to back out here a little bit. I mean, this is a significant project, and it's like we're not even thinking of anything close to this scale. Tactical Tony's in the house. What's up? How did your chat? Your chat look like it went all night. What time did you shut down? Well, let's go. I thought I clicked over already. Let's go. Yeah, there's talk of a lot of high-speed rail along this route, Walter Davis. I think that's some of the key components is railways, and it's not all just truck routes or road routes. Oh, I already did that. I wanted to go. See, I screwed it up already. That'll be back. Yeah, okay, the maritime route. So it reestablishes, you can see in this map in the top left corner here, going around these areas. So trading with Southeast Asia and infrastructure projects and trade. I don't know how you say Fuzhou. However you say that is a central point of this. Port city of Guangzhou. Is that where they had that large explosion a couple years back in the industrial area? Everybody remember that? Like huge explosion. What are you talking about? Fire, Tactical Tony? What fire are you talking about? China. The side players is the where they try to spread their influence. Obviously, down in Vietnam, the countries are cooperating on infrastructure that links Vietnam's northern port, Haiphong, to the Chinese cities of Kunming and Nanning. I'm gonna have a hard time pronouncing all this stuff. Hanoi is a part of that along both corridors. Monorail system in Hanoi is being planned, I guess in conjunction with China. They are agreeing to peace. Singapore. Well, it would make sense that Singapore has to be involved. It is a shipping hub, as noted. It doesn't say about anything that China's investing there because it's already pretty built out. So they're just probably planning some leases or something to affect their Indonesia, Jakarta. 5.1 billion high-speed rail project. China is also intending to invest in the port to the north of Jakarta called Kalabaru. Sure, that's how you say it. Anyway, go check that out. That's on CNBC. If you want to see kind of how other countries are cooperating for economic development and what they do. It goes through the host of see where China is going to try to spread their influence and affect other countries economically that some are partnered with us, like India, and some are not, like Iran. I guess you would say that's definitely a bold project. It's not for the not going to be an easy accomplishment either, I wouldn't think. So what else we got going on here in the chat room? That's all Tactical Tony popped in for a minute. Walter Davis says China's building an aqueduct from their border with Vietnam along their coast. It's going to be draining the Mekong River to inland to drain that water into China or something, Walter? Is that what that's for? Yeah, truth. They have, I think, a couple of ghost cities that they had built up in the early 2000s. And a big old open highway, like 8-lane interstates that are empty from where they had overextended their projected great communist 5-year plans and such. They might have learned their lesson. It's hard to say. And they are building islands in particular the South China Sea. They're still building those. That's in direct competition with the Seychelles and the Philippines. That area down there. that could potentially become a place for conflict. Japan claims those islands. China is like building like right next to them and putting planes and bombs and stuff on those places to as a show of force. Tony's comment. So they're re-diverting the Mekong for water for China's coastal cities, you're saying, Walter? I see. Yeah, Tactical Tony, we were just talking about Rio earlier, how Brazil's falling apart, or kind of. They're having a security issue. They brought the military into Rio to provide security for some situation problems they got going on and some upcoming presidential elections, which they're worried about, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, the Olympics haven't been going well for people that have brought them into their towns, haven't helped out like they might have thought. That's for sure. Yeah, there's another one of those stories. Let's see. I think I ran through my list. Oh, there was the giant amnesty plan that was tried to pass through Congress earlier this week, which fell apart. Didn't go through the Senate, so that was on my list of notes. But I guess it didn't get anywhere, so I really didn't feel the need to cover it. But there was this conglomeration of supposed Democrats and Republicans that were trying to get this giant amnesty plan through, and it got shot down. So I don't know where they're at on the immigration game once again to try to give amnesty to all these people, because everybody seems bound and determined we're going to give amnesty. It's just a matter of how much money they're going to spend paying everybody off to get it done their way. If anybody knows of an article location for that, point me in the right direction. But after it got shot down in the Senate pretty early on, it's not really came back up. And that was kind of my highlight. We're a little bit over halfway through. I got chat room going, hitting it up pretty good. Put anything else in subjects in there if you want to hit them. We can cover them. Make sure you check out the cards, top right corner, some other channels to go check out that may be interesting to you, and you may have a passing interest or maybe entertaining for you. So go check them out. Share the love on the YouTube. Yeah, Tony, they kind of do backwards planning on that, right? They didn't do backwards planning. They build up all the Olympic stuff for the Olympics. They're supposed to have a plan on how they're going to implement it for infrastructure afterwards, and it all falls apart. They never enact that plan. They supposedly sell it like they're going to use it for something afterwards, and they ended up not. And that's been the last several Olympics. I haven't heard what happened in Sochi, and they're in Russia yet, but that one in Brazil fell apart, and the previous one to that, where was that? The Sydney Olympics didn't go so well, etc. Yeah, truth. We were talking about Nestle a couple of weeks ago. There was that story out of Michigan where they were having that contested issue up in Michigan, essentially like 4 cents to the gallon, and the local government was pushing back on that. And it's like, yeah, who can't make a profit paying $4 a gallon and then selling it for, $3, $4, $5 a gallon elsewhere? I think I make a profit off that, and I'm not even a business guy, right? Yeah, actually pay nothing. It's very you can't buy water rights that cheap, I don't think. I'd have to look at the number on when you buy an acre foot of water, how many gallons that is versus what you pay. I have to look that up. But I'm not sure how water rights work out east. They're a little bit different. See what else we can dig up over here. I think this would be a good article that we all have been, we've, most of us have been assuming this for a while. Trump is disposable. He's the doorman. That's a pretty funny quote. That's all. What is today? Today's 70. Yeah, that's all yesterday. Turkish forces hit Kurds with toxic gas, they say. A mix of chlorine, maybe, and something else. We'll look at that. So I could sort of report after the fact from that incursion Turkey made into northern Syria there with the Kurds. Oh, Boneyard, I misread that. Boneyard, I thought you said Tony is going to go postal. I was like, oh man, getting predictive programming already, are we? Um, so the story here is that Turkish forces reportedly conducted a gas attack against the Kurdish militias when they crossed over into Syria back in January. 6 civilians at the hospital, according to Syrian Kurdish forces and local media. So more of the public media game going on about who gets more sympathy. As a result of Turkish firing missiles containing poison gas. Same symptoms of suffocation, malaise, itching skin, and burning in the eyes. Sounds like chlorine. It's probably the only thing Turkey would have direct access to without building something themselves, like mustard or something like that. So interesting how that kind of got swept away compared to the Aleppo allegations of chemical attack there a couple years ago now. So it sounds like no deaths. So that's probably one of the reasons that didn't go anywhere. Anything else going on out there? future ops boneyards hitting on. We're worried about what's going to make 9/11 like child's play. Is DUMS a short or an acronym for some sort of super secret bunker structure? Their boneyard, is that what that refers to? Because they know what's coming. I know what's coming. I wish I could build a bunker. Deep, oh, dumb. That's what the dumb, deep underground military bunker systems. There you go. Okay, I figured it was an acronym. But yeah, right, truth freeze. That is a quote out of the Bible. They will try to hide in the earth and ask the mountains to fall upon them. Yep. But I think that I mean that's going to refer to a lot more people than just the elite that get in a bunker. Let's see what else we can dig up around here. The Florida story obviously took front and center to a large portion of the week. The Russians were indicted, or 13, from the way I read it, 13 indicted for spreading propaganda during the election. Which I don't know how you're going to bring them to trial. It seems like the FBI can't get out of its own way. It's like we don't need the FBI. We shouldn't have an FBI. But now there's this big vacuum that everybody foresees if they did go away, and what would fill it. U.S. government is vulnerable to cyber attacks. Or click over here to CNBC. I think everybody knows how vulnerable the internet makes things. Whoa, slow down there. What's up, Rebel? Oh my goodness. Everybody in the chat room, we have a special guest. Rebel Solutions has joined us. I don't think I've seen him on the internet in probably 3 months. Welcome, sir. You're about 15 minutes before we shut this down. So if you want to bring up something, you better do it quick. This is funny. Europe and Gulf countries need to spend more to help Syria, Red Cross president says. Meanwhile, those same countries are trying to undermine and destroy Syria, which causes the spending to begin with. Interesting concept. Russia on a journey with Saudi Arabia, investment chief says. Bricklaying robots, that's a job killer. You want a story on Baby Go, Treb? That's not impactful on everybody's life here, or potentially future impacts. We don't really cover that here. We might get a video out later though on that situation. And we talked about the 7 is now 7.2 earthquake, they say, that hit Mexico yesterday. This is all back to yesterday's stories. So self-driving ships in the military, airports too long, all central hive technology. It won't be Skynet or nothing like that. Don't worry about it. Right? All right, everybody out in the chat room. Anything else, folks? We're kind of dying out early, it looks like. Yeah, Boneyard, the technology is being propagandized, might be a good word for it. Everybody's begging for more of it. Walter Davis. We already have talking walk signs telling us what to do. Um, and it's funny because I think those were put out in the idea that they would help blind people with the, because some of them talk, some of them have beeping signals, stuff like that. Because they say walk, walk, yeah. But how many people are really blind? I mean, how many blind people are in society, right? Like, and it only bleeds over that they eventually become a support for the average person, and exactly that, we become too dumb to learn how to cross the street on our own. 1984 and the other one, Animal Farm, Truth Free, Blade Runner, or it's going to be a combination of Blade Runner 1984 and The Matrix. A different Arthur that said similar things to Orwell. Hmm. People will gladly accept their chains. Um, yeah, I'm not exactly sure the quote you're speaking of. Right, Walter? People just do what they're told, right? They don't need to look for traffic, follow the signs. What could possibly go wrong? Right? That's a good skill to have, Boneyard. Going dark for long periods of time, but being able to get in the mountains and get about, no doubt. And really just having the experience goes a long way. Good morning, Jay Thornton. How you doing? Thanks for joining us. We're kind of at the end of the hour, but if you got anything you want to bring up, we could extend it out 5 or 6 minutes. We started off talking about the Mexican earthquake and the situation down there, kind of tied into some of the ice raids in LA. Went over to Brazil and talked about their army taking over security for the country, and discussed briefly, especially when the side chat hit it pretty good, about South American issues bleeding over to our issues. Covered some Chinese big world building economic project to basically connect all of Asia, Europe, and Africa. Oh, Brave New World, is that what it is from, Huxley? Okay, that makes sense. There's probably something quoted in there like that. Ignorance is strength. It all kind of ties into the Brave New World 1984, very similar in their dystopian outlook, or which is a reality outlook almost now. Yeah, good bring up. I don't know Brave New World quite like I know 1984 and Animal Farm. Yeah, that's a good point. Truth. Brave New World. It's more enslavement was welcomed out of safety. In 1984, more it was enslavement was brought on out of fear. You were fearful and accepted your slavery because of the fear of what they could do to you otherwise, kind of thing. It's a good difference, but I guess they have to be on the lookout for both approaches, and the different people are have to be affected either way. Maybe be a way to look at it. Different people accept different types of motivations, so they'll have both options to enact that with. Oh, really, Walter? The teacher was trying to say that Animal Farm was about the evils of capitalism. That's the way they were trying to sell that. Yeah, it's funny. I remember reading 1984 way back when, and it was like they were selling it as the evils of the military and the endless wars, which is, but the underlying part of the book is that's really not what it's about. And then when I read it when I got older, you see, it was more relevant than what they were trying to sell it back then as, because it was all about the evils of Reagan and everything that he was doing. And that's what they were comparing it to, when really the overarching state was the problem, but they didn't mention a lot about that. They didn't want to, at least. We got an F. That's sad to hear, Walter. The kid's got an F on the report on Animal Farm, huh? Well, that's brutal. They didn't like your approach, I guess, huh? Yeah. All right, folks. There's your weather out coming at you for this weekend. As we wrap it up here. Thanks for coming out. Good chat in the side chat there. Um, Indeed, for Truth Freeze, we have free will, but the state full control. It is all about control. All right, folks. Let's have a good Saturday and Sunday. If you can stay out of the weather, I know we are. We don't have that problem. But we'll see you Monday morning. If you come join us again for our Monday morning, make sure you again check out that icon up right corner there for some other channels. If you don't know, you may not know about. Let's go out. Have a great weekend. Live free.